Ni ska vara varmt välkomna till en ny episod i huvudet på en tränare där vi idag har med oss en mästerlig tränare i Nik Chamberlain. Så denna intervju kommer vara på engelska, men ni som kommer kolla på detta kommer ha en översättning så att ni kan hänga med i snacket. Så då går vi över till Nik. Nik, a warm welcome.
Thank you very much.
How are you this morning?
I'm doing very good. It was good to watch Iceland's handball team beat Hungary last night. So it was a nice little, saw some pet friends from Iceland as well in town. So no, but everything else is going good. It's been the nice couple of weeks.
It's an honor to have you on the show. But before we dive into the deep talk, I thought that we can fire up with some quick personal questions so the audience can get to know you a little bit better. Is it okay for you?
Yeah, fire away.
All right, perfect. So let's start with how old are you?
I'm 39. Turned 39 in October.
Okay, where do you live?
Currently in Kristianstad.
How does family situation look like?
I have a girlfriend. We met last summer. Single for quite a while before that. I met and then I got the job here, so I left her. But she's in Iceland and I'm here, but no kids or anything like that.
Okay. What is your educational background?
I went to college in America. I have an undergrad in physical education and a master's in exercise science.
If you would comment your head coach salary, would you describe it as okay, good, or very good?
Okay.
What car do you drive?
I actually don't have a car. In Iceland, I was given one by the club, and here in the town, you don't really need one. So at the moment, I'm just kind of walking around, or maybe just get a bike when the weather gets a little bit better.
Environment friendly. Very nice.
Yeah.
What do you usually watch when you want to relax? What goes up on the telly or TV?
I'm a big fan of period drama, like historical stuff, especially sort of medieval times. Science, fantasy, fiction as well. They're the kind of two things that I kind of like to just turn on, switch off.
Yes.
Maybe football, but I don't actually watch a lot of football away from football.
What kind of music do you listen to most?
Trance music. So it's a form of EDM, if people know what that is. So like Above and Beyond, Armin van Buuren, Tiesto, that sort of thing.
Tell me, who was your football idol growing up?
Roy Keane.
Oh, okay. Tell me, do you have a favorite club? And why that club?
Man United. Partly because of Roy Keane, and partly it's just even though I'm like every other United fan and don't live anywhere near Manchester. My mum was also a fan when she was a kid, so kind of family inheritance, I guess.
Tell me the biggest football experience you have been a part of. It can be as a coach or as a player.
Yeah, I mean, as a player, I mean, I only played like the lower levels, really, second tier and below in Iceland, really, in college in America. But as a coach, I think there's a couple of ones. One was my first cup final experience in Iceland with my previous team to Breiðablik. It was the first time in the club's history, men or women, that we got to a cup final. And then the second one would be winning the league title the first time with Breiðablik. It was away at Valur, who had won the league for the 3 previous years. Final game of the season, 2,500, 3,000 people there. and that was a special day.
The best looking football shirt of all time, in your opinion, and why?
It's going to be a United one. It'd be the 1994 Umbro Shark one when they had the laces up here. I think it's 94 around that sort of time. The red one.
Yeah, okay. Is there a football rule you would like to change?
Yeah, throw-ins. Like I agree that I still want to keep the premise of having using hands, but just keep two hands on the ball. How you throw it in is up to you. But two hands on the ball, 1 foot on the ground. If you want to roll it in, if you chest pass it in, doesn't. Just two hands on the ball and just get it going.
Do you have a favorite movie?
It depends, really. It depends what kind of mood you're in. Shawshank is up there.
Okay.
A kind of science fantasy rom-com called About Time. The Lord of the Rings game is up there. If I had to choose number one, I'm going to go Lock, Stock and Two Barrels.
When you treat yourself, what does that look like when you want to treat yourself?
Yeah. So usually in the weekends off, at least when I was in Iceland, it'd be a bit easy here, but I would fly to back to London or another city or whatnot and go to a music festival or a rave. Fly in, go dancing for hours and then fly back. But now it's easy. I can just take the train to Copenhagen. It'll be all right.
Tell me, when do you most often tell a lie?
To be honest, I don't. Lying's not really part of my nature. Even if it's bad news, I'll just say it. It is what it is.
Okay.
So I just try and live honesty, really. Maybe if it's a bouncer or someone asking how drunk you are, maybe that's it.
Good one.
Yeah.
Which school subject were you best at besides PE?
Drama. If I didn't go down the sport route of physical education, I would have gone down being a drama teacher.
If you received 10 million today, what is the first thing that you would do?
I think find a little plot of land in the woods somewhere, build a nice little cabin. So have a nice little escape to go to, and once everything's done and dusted, that's a nice retirement place.
And I have one final. When was the last time you felt genuinely, truly happy?
I think, what you're looking for in terms of that really euphoric feeling, I think it would probably be when Breiðablik, when we beat Fortuna in the last 16 of the Euro Cup, coming back from 2-0 down, 3-0 down in aggregate and winning in extra time. I think that true euphoric feeling then. But my girlfriend might not be too happy about it still.
Oh. All right. Okay, I hope that this little quiz of questions that our audience got to know you a little bit better, at least. But let's dive a little bit more deeper in what is the main reason I contact you for this interview. To go inside your head a little bit, because you're an exciting coach, and we want to know a little bit how you think and how you reason in the footballing world. So I was thinking, if you could summarize 2025 very briefly. You arrive from a top-level Icelandic environment and a title-winning club. What standards, training culture, and match preparations do you bring with you? And what do you conclusively leave behind? What would you like to leave behind?
Yeah, I said I think the easy thing to leave behind is going from a title-winning team. Like, we had the resources to be able to do so. Obviously, with the support of the men's side, it usually comes that way. So coming in here, I know that the facilities and the environment and the resources that we have aren't there. I'm not. I knew that coming in. So me wanting the world and everything that comes with it isn't going to happen here. Which I knew. So I mean that's something that I know I can leave behind on that side of things off the pitch. Sort of things that just bring and win the pitch. It's just maintaining the standards, basically. From what the coaches have done previously here, coming in, maintaining them, and looking to add different ways of thinking, I guess, we want the players to do, and dealing with players, with the title-winning side. So you're dealing with players that have won titles. You're dealing with internationals. You're dealing with players that scored 180 goals in domestic leagues. So you kind of dealt with a lot of egos, I guess, is the best way to put it, but in a good way. So bringing that kind of player management, that the human side of things across, I think would be very important, both on the pitch and off the pitch. Making sure that the demands are high. I mean, I am a shouter, but recognizing that as soon as the training's done, then there's this human element side of things as well. And then just the match preparation is, I've always considered myself to be as organized as possible and want to give as much information as possible. So again, it's just continuing that, which I know that they've been doing here, and again, it's just adding my little variations to it, which suits how I want a message to come across.
Tell me, you are an English, but you built a large part of your coaching profile in Iceland before you came here to Kristianstad. What from that environment will translate directly to Allsvenskan, also Damallsvenskan? What is the difference, would you say, Iceland, Sweden?
I say obviously Sweden's is the next level. It's a higher level. That's part of the reason coming across. I mean, but watching it from TV is getting a different feeling from actually being involved in it live. So what's the difference is, outside of the standard, that's something I will be picking up as I go along. Because I'm not going to speculate by any means on that side of things, because it's difficult. But the one thing that I'm going to have to adjust probably is my mannerisms on the sideline, because in Iceland, I played there for a little bit and then I started coaching, so I know the officials and I know the referees, and so then they know how I am. Whereas here, I'm pretty much, you come in as a nobody knows who I am. So one, a bit of swearing on the sideline could result in changing, how maybe official sees me and things like this. So I've got to make that adjustment from a personal side of things. But on the football side of things, I think a lot of it would just be quickly learning for me, because it is the next level. And so it would be naive to think that I can come from Iceland with Breiðablik, what I've done there, and just translate it directly across.
All right. But tell me, when you accepted the role as a head coach here in Kristianstad, which part of the assignment in the club immediately felt like, this suits me? And which part did you identify as the biggest challenge?
I think because of the history with Icelandics, both as players and coaches and coaching staff. So there's always been a little link to and from the island. And I think that was it's a club that you've always kept an eye on, both either in the media or previous players that I've had that have come and played here. And so then you just kind of always keep an eye on them. So you've always know what the environment's like, and it felt like it was a good starting position for me to see what we can develop in the next level. Because the Swedish league is one of the best in Europe. So it's a good opportunity to come and test myself in an environment where I feel I could be given time to evolve as well. And I said the biggest challenge is just the resources. But I knew that coming in. Just recognizing going from Breiðablik. I mean, fortunately in Iceland before Breiðablik I was at Throtter, and it was a similar situation. Not much money, small size in terms of a squad, and just learning to deal with what you have. And that's what it is here. It's just recognizing, getting out of that notion of having, the Breiðablik kind of style environment to kind of going back to not basics, but just using what we have here, and just going to be the challenge.
But tell me, why do you think Kristianstads DFF chose you for this role?
I think partly because of me knowing the situation here, not being blind. I think partly because of my relationship with some of the Icelandic community and what's gone on here, and I think my style of play as well suits what the club have always been doing the last 17 years. As it maybe obviously I have my own variation, but it's not going to change drastically to just becoming a direct long ball team. I kind of suit the both the player development side of things and the style of play and principles of what the club means to not just the players, but the community as well.
We go into the dressing room a little bit and the staff role. How is your staff structured around the team, and which roles do you always want clearly defined? How does the setup look like?
So I've got an assistant, Janine, who's from South Africa. This is her first season with the club as well, and the first time we're working together. So it's building a relationship there. And we've been speaking, the last few months when we've been working and just slowly fitting into the role. Because for me, and we've got Bojan who's been here for a while, and then we've got a strength coach. The strength coach is easy to define. That's your kind of area. We're making sure, even though I oversee it and I still want things done a certain way, there's a lot of trust there because I've brought him over from Iceland. Everything else, we're still feeling one another out. For me, I don't want to be a case of I'm going to do this and you've got to do this, got to do this. For me, it's more of a kind of a discussion going, this is what I prefer, getting ideas and seeing how other people work, because we've got to, as I say, we've got to find the right connections for us to work effectively as a team. Now the buck still stops with me, and I'm still going to still have the final say, but I'm very much about making sure that the staff and everybody around is comfortable as possible so they can work as effectively as possible as well.
But who owns which key area? Match analysis, opposition scouting, set pieces, etc. Do you have to combine roles, or do you have all positions?
So, for me, this is where I'm going to need to develop as a coach. Like in Iceland, 95% of this was down to me. We would speak about things because my staff were all part-time. And they would watch games and stuff like this, but all the analysis, all the opposition, all the scouting, all the reports were done by me. And so this is where I need to develop as a coach to delegate a little bit more. And again, this will just become, as I say, once we start the practice games, we'll try some things, how we do the debriefs, how we lead into games. So there will be a little bit more of delegation, but I can't exactly tell you right now who's going to do what, because as I said, we've just got to still fill around, and I've got to give stuff away.
Okay. But okay, now you're new, but in your previous roles, did you ever have experience that maybe on some decisions, maybe you don't disagree, then you have to discuss, and how do you then take an decision together as a team?
Yeah, as I say, me and my previous assistant Edda, we worked together for 5-6 years, and we disagreed a lot. We would I wouldn't say full blown arguments, but we would disagree. But ultimately we would just, she share her opinion, I share my opinion. We kind of go back and forth a little bit, Sometimes we'll come to a mutual side of things. Sometimes it'll just be a case of, right, I appreciate it, but we're going to do my way. And sometimes I'll just look at it going, right, that makes sense. So we'll go her way. So it depends, but ultimately I'll make the decision. But I'm very, very flexible in terms of, the ideas and what people want to suggest.
But if we start to talk about a little bit about the players, what type of culture do you want to build in the dressing room?
So for me, it's I want to be, competitive. I mean, it's pretty much basic, but I want that kind of a little bit of an extra edge where players can, like the same with me. If something's not quite happening on the pitch, there needs to be a little bit of emotion and competitiveness demanding of one another. As long as we can go across that white line and put our arms around another and just leave it behind, that's fine. But I think that placing extra demands, if you've got something to say, kind of, say it in the right way. I think just, a bit of honesty, that's the way I'm going to work as a coach, and I expect it from players as well. If there's something to say, just come and say it. It doesn't matter if it's good, bad. I think it's better off the chest than rather than just keeping it inside. I know players especially are going to be pissed with me. It's just the way it goes, but I don't hold grudges. You just get it off your chest and we move on. So the honesty side of the factors. So competitiveness, honesty, and accountability.
But which behaviors are completely unacceptable to you, regardless of performance? And
so behaviors, it's like, again, that kind of disrespect. You can be upset with players, with coaches and whatnot, but there's certain things that I think you just got to hold true. If someone's talking to you, you just kind of listen. If you've got games at the end of the game, you make sure that you go and clap the fans, regardless if you win, lose or draw, because ultimately in the women's game we need the fans to come through the gates, and if they're seeing that players aren't respecting them or showing some appreciation, then that's definitely a no-go for me. So it's more those kind of things. To say performance is performance, but just being a little bit disrespectful, showing that side of things, that's a no-no for me.
But tell me, when you have to deliver an uncomfortable message, how do you do it? Do you do it in a group, one-to-one? Do you do it immediately? I know it can differ what kind of message, but in general, maybe you have to tell a player that he's not going to be in the starting 11 or something like that.
Yeah, I just sit down with them and talk to them. Depending on the urgency of it. But if there's going to be changes to the squad, I'll sit down with the players individually and just explain to them they're not going to play this game, and I'll give them a reason why. Sometimes it's tactical, sometimes it's just form, sometimes it may be whatever it will be. But I'll always sit down with the player and just say they're not going to play. Because again, it goes back to that honesty side of things and communication. I think it's very, very important. And again, the players can be pissed at me. They can get up and storm out or shout at me. I've got broad shoulders, walk off dust backs. Tomorrow's a new day. They'll be fine. But I'll always have that conversation with the players especially if a football matter side of things. Difficult conversations, I think, should always be had straight away as soon as possible. And again, that's all on me. I'm the head coach, head player, the manager. So I'll always have those conversations individually.
Okay, but in your opinion, what is the hardest for a squad to fully buy into, to get them on the same side? Is it the daily standards, a patience within the game model, or courage under press? It can be a lot of stuff, but...
I think coming into a new club, because obviously I experienced it 2 years ago with Breiðablik going in as well. It's maybe the buying into the game model of what you're asking players to do. Especially if you're going to change characteristics or maybe even the position, that you see them in a different way that they might have played for the last 6, 7, 8 years. because you see things a different way. So that can be, I think, the most difficult. The easiest way around that is winning games. As soon as you win games, everybody's happy.
Yes.
So I think that's, in my experience, it's kind of, seeing players to kind of try and see your way of things of just buying into the game model. And it's like, for me, as long as you have the reasons behind it, you can support it and be strong with it. Then it tends to be okay. But yeah.
But tell me, you don't have to reveal too deep how you work, but do you have a starting 11 ready in your mind maybe the day before, or do you deliver it on the match day? How do you work when it comes to that part?
So delivering the message to the players, they will kind of roughly have an idea, match day -2 previously when I was in Iceland. When we start to go over the tactical side of things, they'll know for certain on the Friday. I'll speak to, they'll know before the practice, because I usually do the team meetings before we go out. So I'll have those meetings like we talked about with the players, either the Thursday evening or the Friday before the meeting, just to confirm their suspicions. But then sometimes in my own mind, I know that we might change some players in the next game or the game after that. Sometimes, I'll tell the players, like, they might not play this game. Hey, this game's not going to be really suited to your style of play and what we're looking for, but next week's going to be more for you, because of the opposition. So but they'll usually know as a group, match day -2-1. I won't ever do the same day. It's just, I think that messes too much with the emotions and stresses of players.
Okay. All right. You're quite an open dialogue type of leadership and coach. That's good. But if we talk a little bit about pre-season and the training now, tell me in a little bit concrete terms, how many football sessions per week do you want in pre-season, and how many pure physical? How does the setup look up for this pre-season?
Yeah. So Mondays we have the gym and then football training. Tuesdays are the same, and Tuesdays tend to be our conditioning day, is when we do our running with the MAS. Off Wednesdays, Thursdays again, it's a gym and football. Friday again, gym and football, and then Saturdays just football. And as we get to practice games now, that's when our games will be. So, but the gym's it's not every day. Even though we're 4 times out of the 5 in the gym, it's not heavy lifting every day. There is a heavy lift day. There's a power day. There's a velocity day, and then there's an upper body day.
But tell me, how do you translate the game model onto the training pitch? Which 1 or 2 principles do you always start with?
I think, as I say, going in to this environment with Kristianstads DFF is slightly different. Like going into Breiðablik, it was a different side of things. You kind of had to look at the players a little bit more and kind of coach that side of things. Whereas the girls here, the team here, they've been coached really, really well. So it's again case of finding in the other sort of details. Okay, they've been coached this, so I don't have to worry about that. But what can we add to that? Or is there something that we see that we're looking to address a little bit quicker? To say the good side of the good things here is that I can get into the tactical side of things a lot quicker than I could do in Iceland. Kind of just building the base there, and then went to the tactical side of things. But here, as I said, they've been really well coached previously. So then it's a case of just going into the tactical side of things quicker, and then just working on the minor details of that. I've always been a fan of, like in terms of the pass information, the type of pass, the quality, and then just the adapting. And very much about adapting to the situation rather than saying you've got to do this and this. For me, it's a case of assessing and adapting how the situation arises.
Right. But tell me, which phase usually takes the longest to stabilize or build up? Is it the pressing, transition, box defending, offensive play?
Yeah, I think the defensive recovery when you're out of shape. That's usually, especially the formation and the style that I've implemented the last years. I think, you know, having the base set up and knowing roles and responsibilities, box defending or starting the press is one thing, but it's those moments when you're transitioning, where your rest defense needs to be, and also just those moments when you're in a press but the opposition play through. So then how your shape's going to be after that. So they're the main, you know, they're the ones that take the longest because it's, again, the situation's always going to be different. But I try and get onto those things as quickly as possible, maybe even work on them a little more than set up for a press from a goal kick.
But tell me, now we are talking training, not the match. If somebody neutral, like a neutral coach, observed a session, what would they recognize as a typical Nik coaching session? What is your coaching style in the training?
It'd be demanding in terms of what you would hear. My voice is there constant. So I think that's what you could find is a little bit. So you would hear the voice a little bit more. I think you kind of just have, you know, the starting part of the session. It pretty much always kind of similar as well. There'll always be some sort of possession-based exercises, always on a regular thing, and then it's just a case of then, you know, just kind of just the demands based for the player. I think those sort of things. The start of the session kind of just, you can define that. You know, there's like people will come and watch the Icelands. You know, they kind of knew what my sessions would kind of be to begin with, and then you would just kind of see, you know, be the kind of like, especially down the Swedish way, there's a lot of tactical stuff. I think I did a lot more of that in Iceland, I think, compared to what other coaches did. So that continues here. But I think what defines my session is definitely the demands that I use on the players, and probably the little possession exercises, rondos that we always have at the beginning.
I forgot to put in one question, but here in Sweden it will be natural grass and it will be synthetical grass. How are you going to prepare those two type of styles? Or how do you see the difference between that?
Yeah. So once we get to the grass, we'll just train on grass. When I was in Iceland, we were on turf, on synthetic, so we just trained all the time. And then if we went to play on grass, we just went and played the game. But then leading into the grass games, obviously being there for so long, I knew what the type of grass would be like. So, for example, if we went up north to play a team called Thorhauer, grass is like a cabbage patch. So then in the session leading up to it, even if we're on turf, we're practicing like we're playing on a cabbage patch. So probably being a little bit more direct. Switching it around here, I think from what I can see, all the grass pitches are pretty decent. So we should be able to just go. But let's say if we go from our pitch to play on Pietia, for example, we'll just train on grass and then we'll just play the game. Because I think as well, the science, the change of surfaces is not great for the body, and the science kind of shows that your body can adapt to emergency situations 24, 48 hours. But if you start changing things more than that, then your body starts to adapt. So then if you go turf for a week and then you train in grass, your body's always trying to adapt, and then it can potentially lead to a little bit more injuries.
But tell me now, when Damallsvenskan begins, let's say I go to the game, I sit myself on the side, I watch your team play for 5 minutes. What should I immediately recognize? So I think, this is Nik's team.
Yeah. Formation, I think. You know, I'm quite sort of stalwart in the formation that I've been used in the last few years. And sometimes, getting, players working in little pocket spaces, looking to receive and going forward, back foot forward. Can we go that way? Either through dribble or just breaking lines. So I think that's it. That's what I would probably say is kind of thing. Looking for players to receive on the half turn and going forward.
Okay, but what is your signature as a coach in form of deformation? Are you a back four guy, back three guy?
Yeah, primarily the last good amount of years it's been a 4-4-2 diamond.
All right.
And there's been variations of that depending on who we've played. We've had to change a little bit, but primarily that's where we've been, and that's where we'll start, and we'll adapt to the situations. We'll work on things and be quite fluid. But yeah, that's been the main primary formation.
For your style of play to work, what type of players do you love working with, and what do you see in them so they can fit in your starting 11?
Yeah, obviously, being comfortable on the ball, especially, and just. But the main type of players that I like are, tidier players that can get on the ball in tight spaces and happy to kind of just dribble one or two players and find a through ball. Those sort of players there. Players that can be a little bit creative. If they're 1v1 players, and go 1v1. So those kind of X factor expressive players. They're probably the players that might lose the ball the most and frustrate a lot of coaches because they do too much. But for me, at least in my education, seeing players in Iceland and having some of these players, and when they went away with national teams, especially when the national team coaches would tell them, "You've got to pass more, you've got to do this more," and I'm just like, "No, this is what you're best at as a player. You're going to make more mistakes than not, but when you get it right, it's going to be brilliant." So I think those players that like to get the ball on the half turn and drive at defenders.
I know now you are a little bit new in the club, but if we talk a little bit about DFF Academy, how do you want to work with the academy to create a clear pathway to the first team?
Yeah, so I've always been heavily involved in that, both at all my clubs in Iceland. So it'll be the same way here. Just catch the odd training session here and there, speak with the F19 and 17 coaches to see what players are coming through, catching the odd game as well, and then just giving opportunities. If we need, say if we need a left back, for example, in training, I would rather have a left back from the 19s or 17s come in than just the best talent, because if you bring in the best talent, you say 9 times, the majority of the time it's going to be some sort of attacking player or central player. So then if you then put them in the left back in the first team training environment, it's not doing anything for them. They're not going to be a left back. They're just there to just be there. Whereas if you can bring in a left back, you can then coach them a little bit as well. They might not be as good on as an individual, but they know the position a little bit more. So it'd be kind of those sort of pathways that we want to clear as well, just to make sure that we're giving opportunities to the players that might just be necessity, and also a case of talents as well. So I think that's what kind of pathway we want to try and create here, rather than just going, "You're the best player, we need to get them through." That's a gimme, but it's also a case of what do we have in the first team, right? We're lacking a left back. Do we have any left backs in the club? And then if we do, okay, can we start working on them a little bit more? Because in 3 or 4 years, they might then be able to fill in this left back position, rather than just focusing solely always on the best players.
All right. But are there some behaviors that you want to see consistently in the academy that reflects your signature?
Yeah, I think the kind of the basic principles. I'm not someone that's gonna want the club to play the same formation from top to bottom, because we're not always going to play the same formation. Now they should expose themselves to different formations, because I think that's very important for youth players to, to experience a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3, even if they lose games. But it's important for the development, because you take the first team environment, like Cal DFF primarily have been a back five for many years. Now I'm coming in as a back four, so then they're exposed to something different. So I don't think you should just have one way. So it's good for for them to be able to be exposed to different stimuluses as well, formation wise. And then, just the following the basic principles, what we expect basically in possession and out of possession. And then, like I said before, in terms of holding the club's values of every session, whatever that may be.
Okay. I know you have not been here for a long time, but in that time that you have trained the team, who do you identify as the next big talent? Do you have some exciting name for us?
So the only one that's kind of been, training us regularly at the moment is obviously she's been in the first team before I got here, Filippa. She's been identified as the next big thing in Sweden in general. After that, there's a couple of girls that have joined the club recently, joined the academy, that can hopefully make a breakthrough in the next year or two. I'm not going to give specific names away, because we've got a big club down the road that would just jump at every region. So we've got to be careful a little bit of them.
I like it. Cryptical.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But let's leave the treasure in the academy then, so they don't steal your players. But tell me, if we talk a little bit about squad building and recruitment, tell me, how involved are you in the recruitment compared to the sporting director and the scouting department?
I'm heavily involved. I mean, if we're going to sign a player, I'm going to give it the all go. That's the way I've always worked. In Iceland, you didn't really have a sporting director. If you did, they're just kind of there, but they weren't really involved. So previously all the work was what I did, and just what we spoke with the coaches. Similar here as well. The sporting directors, is more involved than what I'm being used to. So it's nice building that relationship and getting a different opinion. But in terms of signing players, unless I say yes, we won't sign a player unless I say yes.
Okay. Now, I know that you inherit a squad, but do you have a clear squad building philosophy, or do you maybe have to follow Kristianstads? And do they have a squad building philosophy?
I think from the club's history, it's certainly been more as a development area for players. And so I think it's a case of continuing to do so with that. And as for me, in terms of recruiting, and again, as I said before, I'm happy to come here because I know what I'm working with. I've come to work with. It's not as though I can get rid of, decided to get rid of 5, 6, 7, 8 players as it has been. That's been partly just because those players have wanted to move on. So that's why they've all, the majority of them all left. So then I can bring in a few players that suit what I'm looking for and what we need in the team. As much as I mentioned about my preferred player in terms of receiving a half turn and driving at defenders, I know that you can only have 2 or 3 of those Mavericks in the squad. You've got to have something different, way of attacking differently, defending differently. So it's again assessing the squad that we have here, and knowing that this is a squad. So then you've got to work on those players. Okay, if you're going to be in this position, this is how I'm going to coach you to be a player in this position. And then, you know, if we can bring in the right players that can complement what we're looking for, then we can do so. But yeah, so it's a case of just, you know, we've got here what we've got, and I'm going to work the best with what we have and try and make them the best players as possible, in our line of vision of how we see things.
But tell me, how important is it to that the team has a local connection, so that the audience recognizes the players that are on the field, so they can say, I know this little girl since she was a little kid or something like that. Do you have that in your philosophy?
Yeah, definitely, especially as I say with a club like ours, where the link to community is very, very important, and it gets people in. And again, you know, my referring back to, you know, in Iceland, given I've always been quite good at giving opportunities to youngsters in the clubs that have come from the club. My first club, you know, a girl was coming through the academy. She was 18. I made her the captain of the club. That she's still there and still the captain. At Breiðablik, we had 10 of the squad that are from the academy come through at some stage. So I would do the same thing here. Like again, I use that left back as an example. If we've got someone that's come through the club and plays for the club and is in that position, for me, that's a case of, you got someone from the club. You keep that person from the club. And then you fill in other spaces rather than going, okay, I'm just going to finish off by just saying that the having players from the club is very, very important. And even if I have a preferred left back, if there's already a left back in the club, that player is going to be the primary player, and we fill in elsewhere.
Okay, all right. Tell me, which signings are essential for your game model to function in 2026?
So we needed strikers. We had no strikers. But we have them with Linda from Iceland and Hannah Ekkengren. So we probably need someone to support them as well, which we have signed. We have signed a creative player that will be announced tomorrow. So depending on when this go out, you've got, you know, an exclusive. And then I say, you know, we've it's not as though I've been given, you know, we've got players in positions. It's a case of coaching them. Like with the 6 for me is very important. And we've got players that can be in the 6, but I need to coach them, because if we bring in a 6 that I prefer, then we've got 3 or 4 people that can play as a 6.
Okay.
So it's again, for me, it's assessing the situation of what areas we needed strengthening in, and then identifying those players that suits how I would like to play, rather than kind of going, all right, I need a 6 is the most important. We have 6s, but they're not good enough, so I'm going to go and get a 6.
Okay.
Got 6s. It's now our job to coach them to be suitable or what we're asking for them. But we need the strikers, so then I can go get the strikers that I prefer.
Okay. Yes. But are there holes to fill in the squad even more? What do you say? Which roles must always be covered?
2 players.
Okay.
Yeah. It must cover it. So we need defensive cover at the moment. We're very thin back there.
And the goalkeeping side, they always tend to not be discussed so much. But so how do you see about the goalkeeper setup?
Yeah, it's good. We've got 2 very good goalkeepers here. Mua, I think, had a very good season, and you know, he was probably unlucky not to get called up by the national team to be a third choice. So we're going to keep driving her towards that goal, and Malova. has been excellent in the training sessions as well, despite her young age. So she's got a bright future as well. Obviously, ideally, we would like to have a third choice, but we don't really have anything in and around at the moment. There's an academy goalkeeper that we'll look to bring in a little bit, but she's still probably a year away before being fully in. So we'd like to have a third goalkeeper, but so we'll do what we can. And then for now, if it means I have to go in goal, then I've got some experience in goal at college.
All right. But if we look ahead a little bit now, Swedish Cup, you have Umeå, Piteå, and Malmö FF. How do you view this group, both competitively and from a process perspective?
Yeah, so for me, this is all just a process. Every game that we're playing up until we play Piteå in the first game of the season will all be a process. Obviously, we want to win games, and that's important, but it's not the be all and end all. For me, as I say, the Swedish Cup, it's obviously a little bit different to the cups I've had both in England and in Iceland, where it's a knockout and it's kind of like in the season. Being it pre-season, at least this year, I'm seeing it as pre-season. So we'll try things that we might not do in the season. We give players opportunities because we need to also be exposed. We need to see what we do well. So everything will be building up to the first game of the season. But it's nice to get a nice variation of teams as well. Obviously, Umeå in the league below. Piteå will be developing as well because they've had a lot of players go. They'll still be getting players in. Malmö, obviously this year they're going to be looking to win the league. So you've got one of the top end teams as well.
Okay, you answered very, very good. I had a lot of questions about the cup, but tell me, is there anything you want to test aggressively in the cup that you normally would not risk in the league?
I wouldn't say anything that I wouldn't risk in the league. Like up to the point of the league, it would be a case of we would have exposed ourselves to all sorts of different things, and know what we need work on and what we're doing currently quite well. But even in season, once we kind of feel from a tactical side of things, we can try it. We'll still give it a go. I've never been afraid to try things. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. For me, as long as the players are understanding the reasoning behind it, then we'll do so. Like this past year, the final game of the season, we just went to a back five for the first time in my whole time at Breiðablik. And we won. So we just I'm up for trying anything. So I wouldn't say there's anything I wouldn't necessarily risk, but we will try most things in the games leading up to the season.
Okay, but if we look to the whole season, what is your concrete objective for the 2026 season?
To win games, that would be a good start. To do that. I think as I said to the group when we had the first meeting, if we're in a better place at the end than the start, then I think that's a good kind of objective to have. I'm not going to sit here and kind of say that we're going to challenge for the title, we're going to be this and that. I've never kind of been that way, even when I was at Breiðablik, and that was the objective, was to win. For me, it's a case of, right, let's just, the old cliche, game by game, day by day, and just see if we're better at the end than we are at the beginning. And if we are that, then I think it's for a first year, I think that's a good step.
What demands, did you get any demands or expectations from the club that they placed on you, that you have to finish this position in the league or something like this?
No, nothing from that. I think that's also, going back to the question, like what was a good fit for both parties for me taking this role, is that there was no expectation like you've got to finish, you've got to finish top 4, you've got to be competing for Champions League, you've got to do any of this. It's a case of like, this is a good opportunity for me to come in and just kind of continue to develop as a coach in an environment which supports that without putting expectations on the coaches that might be too far reaching at this stage.
Now you're new, so this question is maybe not fair to ask, but if the team is to take the next step, what must improve first, in your opinion?
I think going back to one of the questions that you said earlier in terms of what want to bring across to the environment that I have to here, I think the support off the pitch, I think for me, we can look to improve in a little bit. Just little minor things, maybe, offering some access to things that they have off the pitch that they didn't have before. I think that's important, because you can create an environment off the pitch. As much as the players on the pitch win the games, more often than not, that's only 90 minutes once a week. But the rest of the time, they're spending 2 or 3 hours in and around the training ground, in and around the arena, in and around one another. So I think if you sometimes focus on those sort of things to make the environment more professional, or giving them better access to things, then they're going to be better on a Saturday, rather than necessarily spending everything I have on players. Maybe some of that money can be spent elsewhere to support the players.
Okay. But tell me, what demands do you place on yourself as a head coach? And is there anything you like to develop as a coach in 2026?
Yeah, I mean, I always have done high demands on myself. If it's going to be done right, it's going to be done properly. So I mean, I won't skive off anything, and especially coming into a new role, there's a lot of pressure I'm putting on myself. And obviously, going from Iceland with the resume that I've had coming here, there's that sort of pressure as well. So I think the demands myself is just to keep demanding, putting a lot of pressure on myself to give the players everything that they require. The results will be the results, but as long as we can look at ourselves and myself, I go, okay, we did what we can, rather than me going, I wish I spent a little bit more time on this. And then I think then you can't really ask any more of yourself or the players, because things will just be how it will be. Results will be. But as long as we don't look in the mirror, or me look in the mirror and kind of saying, I wish I did this, then I think, that would be the demands that I put on myself. And then I can only answer that obviously at the end of the season, or after games, or maybe when to get to the summer break, I can sit down and look at myself and go, okay, how was the first half of the season? Could I have done this? I'll probably do that anyway, and look to adapt. I think that's one thing with myself as a coach. I do always look to try and adapt, and I learn the mistakes, and I'm going to make a bunch of them this year. As I say, new league, new culture. It's not as though I know everything like in Iceland. In terms of going into the roles, I've been there I was there for 10 years in Iceland, and I was there as a player previous, so I knew Icelandic culture. I knew everything about it. I knew players off the back of my hand. Here, it's going to be a learning curve, especially for me this year. As I said, I'm going to make mistakes, but I can hold my hand up and say when I've made a mistake. And I expect the players, when they recognise something as well, that they come to me and say, "You got that wrong," and I'll be like, "Probably did," but then we look to just assess it and move on. So that's what is going to be mainly this year, is the high demands, and then just learning from my mistakes, because there's going to be plenty of them this season.
Yes. You're a humble guy. But tell me, if we repeat this interview in 1 year, what do you hope people will say that the team and you as a coach have become?
I think difficult
Watch
to
what you
read
say,
as a
but
team.
because in 1 year it will be a reminder.
Well, I mean, if you can, hopefully, you can still say that I'm humble in a year. That would be good, because I think it's a good quality. I think for the team, I think it'd be difficult to read. I mean, people will know our philosophy and styles and stuff and things like this, but it won't be a case of they always play the same way, they always do the same thing. So that's what I would like to think, people can recognize it, going, oh, that's a difficult team to play. Now, I'm not saying that, we're going to win every game and, we're going to win every, those things, but I always make it as much as a challenge as possible for the opposition, where we adapt things, we trying to exploit different things. And there'd be always that little bit of, we know what they're going to do, but we're not 100% sure what they're going to do.
Nik, this was everything I had. It was an honor to talk with you. I learned so much from this interview. Thank you very much for giving us the time and the pleasure to interview.
No, it was a lot of fun. As I said, the questions that have been asked haven't been asked before. When I was in Iceland, it wasn't as in depth, so it's definitely got me thinking. And I'll be counting down the days till next year when we have this chat again, and we'll see where we're at.
I hope that you and Kristianstad really reach the goals and the targets you set, and we will probably see each other at the games. I'm also from Kristianstad, so we will meet in person, I hope, as well.
Oh, definitely. If you're in town, just swing by the office whenever you feel like it. Shoot me a message. We'll grab a fika and go from there.
Thank you very much. So